Hey friends. It is the early full moon portal. Just catching the recording here in an earlier moment. The portal is on the 15th. Actually, I have to find the timing. And we were just getting settled into the circle here, and I was sharing a little personal anecdote around just where I'm at. I'm in this beautiful foresty place in the Pacific Northwest, lands of the Nisqually and Skokomish. It's so many native peoples here. This is a grand place. I'm in Olympia, Washington, and I'm really close to one of the many waterways of the Puget Sound. And this has been a an ecosystem that has fascinated me since I was a child. There were two ecosystems as a child that really stood out for me: the Puget Sound and the Yucatan. And when I think about adventures I've taken as an adult and the last few years, actually, like those are actually have actually been two places where I've been able to spend some extended time and really be nurtured by the spirits of the land and the ancestors of land. And I've been so thankful for that. So the delight of showing up to my friend's home and discovering that she lives on the Sound. This is exciting. So these ecosystems, this one in particular, interconnected waterways, you could make your way all the way out to the ocean, and so moves. It's not like a short distance, but you could like this. But the animals and plant systems and the trees and these big giant trees outside the window. Oh, that is so rejuvenating on a cellular level. There's so much alive here. And it is a harsh environment. It's an extreme environment, extreme rain and extreme wet. And I love this, the trees like dripping moss and lichen. Oh, I love that enchanted forest feel, you know. So I'm reaching out from these lands today in communion and restfulness. And what I was just pondering, which I think is extremely relevant for this full moon portal and the 2 weeks that are going to follow, I kind of want to frame up that and reaching back 1 month or more of a cycle we're in terms of the astrological chart of the United States and this continued unfolding of radical revolutionary energies, changefulness, structural change, um, collective change. So we're back here in the micro, and it's a beautiful moon. There's abundance of healing energy. And in particular, I've been enjoying a week of powering down my nervous system. And what I observed after, a couple of key um, uh, bodywork treatments and some gifted healers. Th- Thank you for all the gifted healers that exist. And when we cross, their paths and in that like well-timed, infusion of healing energy, I've been in a heightened stress situation. And I noticed that I was finally having that letdown, that power down, but not the like let down and get sick vibe. That was like a little bit ago. We all know that one where you're holding it so hard, and then you finally don't have to hold it anymore. And then your body's like, okay, cool, because we've also been holding all these pathogens. And so we're just gonna like have a moment of cleanse and you get some like wicked virus thing and a stuffy nose and a sore throat and all that fun stuff. So I'm past that part. And this is in the actual observation of what is happening in my nervous system. right? And what's accessible, what I can see within myself and what I couldn't see before. And what I woke up this morning and I felt this spaciousness and calm within. And I was like, that's the deep contentment that I know I can arrive to when I'm not in a freak out, reaction mode. And that made me think about how we stress up and then we maintain that. And then through our yogic practices, meditative practices, breath practices, ritual practice, we do de-escalate ourselves, but we don't ever get out of that full spectrum of stress. We're really just, I described it as the lowest octave of that stress zone, and we don't actually get out of it. It takes a monumental effort, a multi-day effort to get out of it and then be able to see, oh, wow. So I just maintain a level of stress, but I don't actually cycle out. And that's the power of a well-timed vacation if you actually vacation within it. A well-timed retreat if you actually rest in the retreat. Oh no. And that it's I guess I'm highlighting here slash calling out. I hear so much language these days around like, oh, look, here's this 30-second, de-escalation. Here's this like 30-second nervous system regulation. Do don't drink that Kool-Aid. That's not the solution. That's coping for the moment for you not to completely lose your shit in the moment and be able to act and respond. That's not the real work. And so similarly, when we have the once a month massage or the once a week yoga class, and this is, on the other side of a conversation that is like, we're doing the best with the time and financial resources that we have. Maybe all we can do is that once a week class, right? So how do we continue to, it's like the big question, how do we continue to lifestyle design in a way that allows for the prominence of rest and enough of it to actually power you? It's a cycle, to cycle you out of the jacked up modes. That's the key. The solution will live in the lifestyling itself. We start with the resources we have, we do the best that we can. And I think that, this really just reinforces for me the necessity of retreat, of actual. Want an espresso? Oh, no, thank you. Thank you. I'm not a coffee drinker. They got like fancy stuff here. Yeah. So I'm back to retreat. What is it to take a full step out, to put yourself in the stylized environment? And this is a very important message for this next fortnight, this next 2 weeks, because we've got actually two, well, I'll group them together, two really critical, important annual rest portals. So one of these is the days leading up to the winter solstice, but December 17th to the 21st. It's so cool. Our sun is trotting along and is actually coming to a moment that we will all feel as the sun transits from, pardon me, sidereal Scorpio to sidereal Sagittarius. And we call those a Gandanta zone because it's a changing of the elements. So we go from water to air, or yeah, Scorpio. Scorpio's water, right? I always forget these things. That's why we have notebooks. And any changing of the elements is an abrupt shift for any planet. Things get a little, they kind of pop off. Can be volatile and changeful. But it's the sun. It's a pretty fast moving luminary. And so it happens, and then and then we move on. Like, it's not like it doesn't stay there for like, a week. A couple of days, and then we moved on. In the nakshatra of Mula, ooh, the deepest, darkest depths of darkness, one part in Scorpio and a little bit in Sagittarius, our sun aligns with the center of our galaxy. And it's the annual renewal of our star. And so even the sun has to take a 4-day break. Just like us. Like this 4 or 5 well-timed rest days could be incredible, actually. And so in this time, if we also are taking rest in that portal, we are also aligning with the center of our Milky Way galaxy. And I mean, every time I get to walk outside and see, if I'm in a place like where I am now, and see the Milky Way, or the times where I've been in really remote regions, I'm thinking of like, I went up, 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 up altitude in Himachal Pradesh, Spiti Lahu Valley, 15,000 feet. And then we motored up. We were at 16, 17,000 feet even on our way over the world's highest motorable pass, 19,500. Yeah, people be like vomiting and stuff. It's terrible. And I have never seen a sky like that. And I was there with a fellow who was from Hawaii. And he was like, "Oh, I grew up with this." Like like it looked like somebody dipped a paintbrush in white paint and streaked it across the sky. I was like, "Oh, the Milky Way." So sometimes when I see a glimpse of the Milky Way, I think about what that must have looked like for our ancestors. That awe and wonderment, that sense of like smallness and the vastness of the cosmos. So now it's on that galactic level. So as much as you would like to play in this galactic portal and remember and revive, this is the annual renewal of the sun, our luminary, our star. So that's the lead up to winter solstice. And we know winter solstice, 21st December, is actually New Year's Day. That's New Year's Day. And that's when you draw the annual chart for the year. Where are the planets and things? Who is aligning with who? What are the major conjunctions on that day? And from that chart, you can interpret 2025. It does. And so then we have the winter solstice, and then we have like the back end, that other side of the winter solstice, 21st, kind of all the way up to like the 30th. We're still in, we know it's the longest length of dark, right? Least amount of solar energy. I know I've been using my light box and my vitamin D drops. Like, I don't play. You know? I do not enjoy any sort of seasonal dip. So we be doing those heat therapies, that vitamin D, and the light box. Let's go. Also exercise, yes. And rest. It's a combo. And so think about it. It's basically from now to the end of December. We're supposed to be doing the deep, 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 deep resting. In the depths of the winter solstice is the spark of light. Right, and that's why we light the bonfires and have a lot of sex and all that fun stuff. Right, orgies abound. And so, however you enjoy, feel free like this. And so, but there should be warmth and hearth and fire. And that is so much this full moon. It's a very loving moon, a very generous moon, a very heart-centered moon. And what's available for us is heart healing like this. We're in a very beautiful axis of Venus. This full moon is at the absolute end of sidereal Taurus and the main players of this moon. So if you think about the last couple moons we've had, we were in this like Mars moon interaction vibe. And I'm in my very like Martian red still because we like Mars. And this is giving us something called Kesari Yoga. This is Jupiter Moon conjunction. So Jupiter and Moon are in conjunction together in sidereal Taurus. And who is opposite them is retrograde Mercury in Scorpio. And Mercury has been retrograde. I probably don't need to tell you that. What funny haywire electronics communication, this and that. Seriously, sometimes like with the electronics, just wait until the Mercury retrograde ends. Half the time it just starts working again on its own. It's the hilarity of that. It's like wait before you freak out if you can. Sometimes it'll just fix itself. You know. With no explanation except, haha, the influence of the celestials, our fun interplay. So, that's a very different planetary feel, like Moon and Jupiter and Mercury and then Sun, and Sun's going into this place of renewal. And Mercury's kind of moving in the opposite direction as retrograde, so they're not so much vibing. Mercury and Sun aren't so much the interaction, but Mercury is still retrograde and ever so slightly starting to slow down that retrograde motion because I think it's the 15th, 14th or 15th, that Mercury will station and start moving forward again. Very fast moving planet. Will pass over its shadow zone of retrogression. So we'll get like another 3 weeks of what we just went over, what just got revealed, what research were you doing? What went a little haywire? What in terms of transportation, communication, electronics, technology, what was shown to you or revealed? We'll just pass that 3 weeks, and then Mercury's on to their next adventure in Sagittarius. This, which is ruled by Jupiter, which is big and expansive. Sag is fun. Like you come out of the dark, of Scorpio, and you come into Sag, and there's a sense of hopefulness and expansion, and that's right around the time. So that's where Sun is going also, and that's always this holiday time, this winter holiday time. That's why the traditional message of this time was always hope and love and charity. This. And this is a very important part of being human. Humans must have a connection to a sense of hope. When we lose a connection to our sense of hope, it's like our little light inside dims. Like this, we don't do very well with that. Oh, and here we are in the complexity of uh, the modern era. It's like, what does hope even mean in this era? It's very complex and complicated and contradictory like this. And so when that collective sphere is so muddled and confusing, just come back down to this microcosm. Like Just come back down to your body. You have a whole macrocosm within this microcosm, of the body, and like scale it down, manageable scale. The collective is on its trip. We're all here for it, like literally, unless you are somehow listening, here in a spirit body presence or somehow have access to this video, in spirit body form. I don't know everything. It's possible, you know. Um, but like just bring it on down to a little bit of a smaller scale. The collective is in a process. It is one of contraction, disruption, dismantling, and the hope is repair and reconstructing, remodeling, redesigning, you know, innovating. Like we're overdue for a technological innovation. Like it's something must be brewing. We'll hear about something in the coming year, something fresh and cool and innovative, like this. It has to be um because it will. It will. Venus and Capricorn and next year uh uh Rahu in Aquarius, and that's social innovation, technical innovation. Like we will see something next year for sure, like this. And let's also hope that that increases sense of hope. Right? Um, I have to like find where I was in the whole astro. Yeah, the collective. Yeah, the collective. Yeah, yeah. So it's our time of renewal. Even our luminary is going to renew. There are things happening in the collective background. So let's see about that collective background. That's when we look at those outer planets. All right. So our first outer planet starts with Saturn, you know, and Saturn is going to go into the next nakshatra, next lunar mansion on December 28th. So we're going to get a real flavor change with Saturn, and then Saturn's going to finish up um, the transit of sidereal Aquarius. And then into next year, Saturn, early next year, Saturn will move into also, Saturn will move into sidereal Pisces. We'll still be in this nakshatra, though. See, ooh, these nakshatras, I name them, I describe a little bit of them, but the nakshatras are the original astrology. They're so later came the zodiac. So when we're looking for like a real detailed understanding of the interplay of these zones, it's nakshatras. It's beautiful. It's such a beautiful level of interpretation of things. And because nakshatras are lunar mansions, we are always talking about moon, mind, intellect, mental function, cognitive function. And let's face it, since the scientific revolution, we live in a extreme mind dominant version of society. So these ancestral tools of how we understand the intricacies of mind, thematics, characteristics, and even deity forms, tattvas, elements. This is the real astrology, actually. So, my rave fave moon dance astrology, Pamela McDonough, this is her specialty, is not the understanding of nakshatra and moon and mind like that. So the cool thing about the part of Purvabhadra Pada that's in Pisces, Pisces is ruled by Jupiter. So this, we have had almost 5 years of Saturn in its own dry, barren lands, of a Capricorn and Aquarius. It's been rough, y'all. So, oh, Saturn's gonna come into this like watery, dreamier place. Not really like a Saturn thing, but whatever. And it's ruled by Jupiter. We will feel some senses of expansion. So it's also going to really depend on how all of this lands in your own chart. Like this is Saturn, Saturn, Saturn. Whoa. So this is a very critical time we're in terms of Saturn and its transit. We need to squeeze those last little drops of understanding of Saturn in Aquarius. You've got until March 29th, I think. I may be flubbing a lot of dates today, or I may have them all correct. It's one of those two things. So, but you can look up dates yourself. Right, but I'm pretty sure it's March 29 that Saturn's going to make the full-on shift into Pisces, still a little bit of Purva Bhadrapada. And wow. So we can also say we've got this like real winter thing that we got to get through. And lots will major things will shift in the spring. We'll get eclipse season, March 14, March 29, March 20, yeah, March 14 lunar, March 29 partial solar, and then another one following that. I think we get a 3 in that series. So spring's gonna come and spring's gonna have some different vibes. Like that. We're at the cusp of winter solstice, so we're setting up our winter season right now, our like winter season consciousness over this full moon and the next new moon, which is still in December. We get 3 moons in December. So that's always fun and abundant. The ancestors always thought that was a cool thing. Right. So we have between now and the end of March, really, and even like right now to the end of this month-ish, December 28th, when Saturn will make this shift, to squeeze these drops. What did you learn over these last 2 years? What were the Saturnian lessons? What was Saturn trying to talk to you about? And Saturn does not play. Like ever. But the blessings of Saturn can happen. I watched an example of this in terms of like my mother needed a subletter for an apartment. She's breaking the lease. And through like hope, love, and charity, an option emerged on a Saturn day of a local organization that houses houseless people made a relationship with this was facilitated through the interaction with the building management company. And now there's a long-term relationship for housing for houseless folks in the town. And I was like, Mom, that is like a perfect example of blessings of Saturn. Saturn can give abundance. Saturn can remove obstacles. Saturn can bring about also financial abundance, but not like that Jupiterian, like some ancestral inheritance drop happens. Nah, Saturn's like hard work, benefit of the masses, uplifting the downtrodden, hard work, diligence, steadfastness, and spiritual penance. You embrace the difficulties, you surrender into the rough moments and be present with it and generate self-compassion and compassion for others. You can get the blessings of Saturn. It's amazing. Absolutely amazing. That day was Saturn Moon conjunction, and people were losing their minds that day because that's rough. That's a rough conjunction. Here, my mom is receiving the blessings of Saturn. So, wow, it's like that. So, what have these themes been for you with Saturn in Sidereal Aquarius? What has this been about for you? Aquarius is quite a social zodiac. There could also be technological innovation as well. But just know wherever Saturn's going to clean it out. It's going to make you get down and muck that stall all the way down to the concrete, right? All the way down to the dirt, like that. And so squeeze it on all out because it's 28 years before Saturn comes back to Sidereal Aquarius. So don't wait 28 years to finish up the lesson. Get it good. And then we'll see what Pisces is about. So that's one outer planet. Our next outer planet is Uranus. And Uranus is in the game at this full moon. So Uranus is retrograde right now and is moving back from sidereal Taurus to sidereal Aries. It's a spicy zone that it's passing through, and Uranus is planet of revolution and innovation. So we've already seen two political shifts in the last couple of weeks as Uranus is moving through this Gandanta, this change zone. We saw the president of France ousted and Bashar al-Assad in Syria ousted. So that's kind of classic, like governments topple, revolutionary end of things. Probably, most of you don't know the nitty-gritties of, the plight in Syria, but just a high level view. The Al-Assads have been in power for decades. So some proper dictatorship. And Bashar al-Assad, he was educated in England, and honestly, he didn't give two shits about, ruling. I think he enjoyed the family's wealth, but he wasn't really like ambitious for ruling. But dad plucked him on back um, to get him primed after, remember, Arab Spring 2011? Whole Middle East got like lit up, Libya, Syria, this one, that one. So that's when they went full dictatorship and massacred their own people in Syria and used biowarfare on their own citizens. It was a very grim time. Who's playing in on that whole geopolitical region is Turkey and Russia and America. Like this. So this is the era. Like whenever there's a conflict, you must then zoom out to the next rung and say, and whose proxy war is being fought? This is the style of the moment, like that. So no shockers there, you know. Turkey wants into the EU at that time. Turkey's aligning with America. America's always meddling in everything. And then Russia is funding what Russia is funding. The Assads are also hiring Russian mercenary. Then America is backing Kurdish rebels. And just like, and then is the regional end, right? So then is also the regional end of um, the play of Israel backed by America and always this narrative of stabilization because also Iran is funding fighters in Syria, right? So Israel's always got his thing with Iran and then gives its excuses for regional balance, but the region is wildly out of balance and we will see increases of um, this year. It's already happening. It is happening. Like as Syria destabilized, Israel is bombing strategic sites in Syria, such as it's doing in Lebanon, right? So This is going to expand. We will see also again Iraq. Obviously, Iran is already lit. Syria, Lebanon, like this. Turkey is playing the game that it's playing. Saudi's playing the game that it's playing. Russia, good God, is playing games all over the place. Um, and this is not going to leave our television screens and news feeds by any means. So what has just shifted in Syria is extremely significant, but our medias will downplay it of just like, ah, those people again doing their thing. Like if you watched any news coverage this week, it was really downplayed. It is wildly significant what just happened. That's Uranus. Uranus does stuff like that. Um, and Uranus is in very technically the earliest degrees of sidereal Taurus. So it's part of this moon also. So we've got big change, we've got revolutionary energy. Neptune. Neptune's also, where's Neptune? Neptune's in sidereal Pisces as well. So like, are you seeing this kind of Piscean thing brewing? Everybody's about to show up in Pisces. It's gonna be a period where it's gonna be like Saturn and Venus and Neptune and like there's gonna be a whole period where Rahu is gonna interact with Saturn next year. This is gonna be in the spring, so I do think it's gonna be a very lively springtime. We better buckle up on that one. I didn't think I'd do any 2025 things, but maybe we'll start that as well. Very lively. And Pluto. And Pluto is, I think it's December 30th, is at its official Pluto return in the US chart. So over the last few months, we've been talking to this storyline, this narrative about big structural revolutionary change in the United States, some of these celestial themes that are impacting that and influencing that. And America's chart is not getting a break. It's about to just amp up. What is Pluto? Pluto is like deep state revolution secrets. Um, I don't know if you've noticed how much is popping into the media about UFOs right now. Um, don't be surprised if like straight up little green men are on your news. Like it's time. Like we're there. You know? So don't really. Do I think it's like, what was I watching yesterday? Oh God, we were watching Transformers Age of Extinction. Somehow I didn't see that one. Like I've seen all of it. I can't keep up, you know. And the big spaceship, it's like coming in. It's over New York City. Actually, it's Chicago. They always film Transformers is always in Chicago, by the way. And then it was like Singapore, and they destroyed Chicago, destroyed Singapore, destroyed Chicago again. But that, sci-fi movie image of the big space shuttle, oh, it's so big, kind of. I don't think we're going that level. I don't think we're going full Hollywood. Um, but don't be surprised if like it comes all the way out into the open. Really, it's a moment. So we've been on like these kind of like flashes, like this is happening. This is happening in the background. Um, so Pluto natal return, and I believe Chiron return. Now Chiron is a actually an asteroid, and not so much present in the sidereal system from South Asia, but it's definitely a Western astrological thing. And Chiron is really powerful, a really powerful influence, and it's all about healing. So like transformation, oh, very Pluto, very Saturnian, like that. But Chiron is about healing and transformation. Whatever upheaval we experience in terms of change in the United States is for healing. It's for the better. Yes, it's for healing. It is for transformation. And we're talking about the collective level, the masses. And because the United States currently runs the global paradigm of the moment, you can go back to post-World War II, post-war paradigm. We can go back to neoliberal capitalism 80s, is basically uh United States, BFF England, and then the clique is United States, England, France, Germany. Right, that's the Mean Girls Club. That's the clique. Like that. This is how this era runs. But there's one in charge. We've spoken to it that like the United States and England are playing two radically different long-term games. They are two very different countries with two different backgrounds and two different long-term games. Like this. And two different sizes. Britain is truly reduced now to just its isles. It does not run through its global conglomerate, but it has made itself a global financial power, and that's good enough in the game of how it works. In the United States, we got space, we have land mass. Yes. And we have less population in relationship to the size of the land mass. So our shift would be, our radical shift would be towards agrarian with technological innovation like this. We have to see. We have to see. We're also a weapons manufacturer, so we play a pretty fierce global trade game through that. But the supply chains are utterly interconnected. So that's the weak point. That supply chain is the weak point for all things: food, medicine, supplies, building materials, that's rare metals. Globalization is the thing to understand now. If you didn't understand it before, like it's all intertwined. The whole thing is now fully intertwined. So then that question really is, where do we stand in the nation state concept? I was just talking with somebody about this, like a teen. We were talking about the concept of the nation state and what the future could look like. Well, we were talking about that also in terms of possibilities for here in the United States if there was a decentralization of power from the federal to the state level. This is the things I think about in my spare time. This light fare when I'm drinking tea and stuff. But yeah, we were talking about I was giving some like possibilities. I'm a teacher of global studies. Like we talk about the systems that it is and we describe the histories of how we got here, and then we speculate on possibilities of the future like this. And one of a real possibility for the United States would be a decentralization of federal power to the state level. And then in terms of global trade, um, and national level trade, so within the country and globally, um, regional consortiums like states becoming regional partners, states splitting, more states happening. You know, like we don't consider these kind of things happening. But if you, for example, live in a place like India, there's like new states forming all the time. And it's often about resources discovered and trade power. So we do have currently built into our, I don't think it's our constitution, but it's built into something or other, some aspect of our government, that states can't trade globally as individual trade partners. That's that's back in the original economic design of those 13 colonies. Of the whole thing of just like no colony can make its own trade agreements. We're gonna trade as a one trading block, and that's gonna be a rule. That is definitely something that could shift because of globalization. And that leads us to another curiosity. Remember, I said this is about Pluto return. This is about revolution. This is about going back to the bones of this thing and being like, is this experiment working? Where is it not working? And if you read the essay that I wrote last year, about the creator's law, our American democracy has always been missing a piece. It has been missing the spiritual grounding and the rooting in natural laws of existence. That part was eliminated when founding fathers reached, your Ben Franklin's and such, reached for inspiration from Judeo-Christian, Greek and Roman, and as they called them, Iroquois Confederacy, as we call ourselves, the Haudenosaunee Five Nations Confederacy. It means the people of the book. The book is called the Great Binding Law. And this was a complete designed representative democracy that had many of the elements we find in our American democracy, because they just copy paste it. But they did not take the creator's law. They did not take the spiritual code and the ethical code. They said, no, we're Christian. We don't need the savagery. We're going to take this one. We already have our own codes. We're not going to take that part. And that is part of what makes this an incredibly flawed experiment. They literally like took out 1/3 of the system, the spiritual and ethical grounding. And that shouldn't be a big shocker. Look how unethical things are. And the problem with American democracy is big business has always been married. So at every moment of progressive politic, from Reconstruction into Gilded Age, Progressive Era, post-World War II, at every single one of those junctures, the people were just like, we gotta get big business out of the government. And then really the Progressive Era, so that's 1900s, about 1900 to up to the Depression, the Great Depression. So for here it was 1929. But especially those years of before World War II, so like 1905 to 1917, right? That was like the one bright spot. It was like one moment, it's called the Progressive Era, where like almost the voice of the people came through and they were just like, we need all sorts of things. For example, this is when senators were made electable. Before that, senators had 6-year terms and they were appointed. Yeah, by their friends. So that didn't work out well, and then they became and now they had to be elected, and laws were passed like whatever product you've made, you've made coffee. Guess what? It actually has to be coffee in the coffee tin. Because before it'd be like sawdust and freaking rat poop and like all sorts of fillers and stuff. So that's the birth of like the FDA, like regulating for the sake of the people, and journalism, and this was just on the cusp of the use of photography, and it's a fascinating era in American history. And then it got squashed in the melee of World War One on purpose. Ooh, and there was a big contraction after the Sedition Act, a couple other things that come up that like silence the voice of the radicals and like this. Oh, it was so cool though for a quick second. Not like so cool because like there's still like Jim Crow and there's like yeah, it's like cool for like educated white people. Like, they gave it a go. Suffragettes, like it was, even though that was also segregated, dang it, so something was cool, but the whole thing wasn't. Okay, there's our conclusion. But all of this to say, because, history holds the key to the cycles. Like we're just in cycles. Right. And I say these things because also people don't know history. So I put little snippets in to revive your civics and history brain, and also to inform sense of hope. Right? That like, no, we're in an experiment. This and it's flawed. Shouldn't we get back to the studs, and see what we can do with this and if that takes a wee bit of upheaval, then that's what it's going to take. But if you let your imagination be hijacked by fear, if you let your imagination be hijacked by cycles of the ever looming sense of violence, well, part of that is informed because you don't know your neighbors, right? It's informed because like you don't spend time in downtrodden communities. It's because you don't know the plight of rural America. Um, you will have to get out of your own comfort zone and meet people where they are and humanize liberals, you know, or just honestly shut the fuck up. Just really, you're just not helping. Now you're like wallowing and shaming and just continuing to like pull away, and retreat into your wealth and comfort. And like, I have like 0.0 time for that. So get over yourself. It's time to do work. And that work is right in front of us at this beautiful full moon in terms of healing and resting and renewing. It's a season of renewal. So the collective, oh, it's interesting and it's gonna stay interesting. And at the individual is something like a sweet little honey nectar, like some kind of juicy baklava, and you bite into it and the honey squeezes out. And you get all over yourself and you don't care. Sticky and like this. So let me tune into a little bit of this nakshatra itself and see if there's some other fun. So I'm reading from my favorite reference, Bepin Bihari's Myths and Symbols of Vedic Astrology, Indian Astrology, or whatever it's called. And we are in a place called Mrigashira. And Mrigashira is about liberation, right? So we're in that sort of influence. It's an active place. It's not like it's not Pisces, it's not like a dreamy, inert place. No, this is an active place. There's fiery energy. Mars is in the mix as well. And the deity is Soma, the god of mystic nectar that imparts great sensitivity and gives enlightenment. Soma is the nectar of the gods, an alchemy. Mhm. Soma is identified with the moon, and Soma eloped with Jupiter's wife in the celestial storytelling. They were so sexual, the celestials. But yeah, Soma eloped with Jupiter's wife, and they birthed Mercury. So remember, we said Mercury is also in this mix of this moon right now, and and Soma seduced Tara, Jupiter's wife, and it caused a great war in the heavens like this. Mrigashira is the symbol is the head of a deer. So we also attribute four-legged animals to Mrigashira. Um, and that can also be about food sources. And I should say, a very important little phenomenon is happening with the moon in terms of um, last month's new moon, this one, and I think the next one or two, they're all at 29 degrees. So the last degree of their sign. That's very significant. This is all pointing towards when things are at the end, or even Pisces, the end of the zodiac. What we're talking about is completion. So there's things that are finishing, that are completing right now in your life that are important to identify and let go and let be in the recycling and cycling process. Um, and this series over these next few months, we're at these ends of things, completion. So we need to really be paying attention to what's standing out for us in terms of completion. Um, just doing a little skimming here. There's a lot of storytelling of Jupiter and Dada and their whole tryst and okay. So impulses that bring about change is part of the thematic here. And the dawn of buddhi, intelligence. So this nakshatra, this place where this moon is, stands for all that is curious, sensitive, and outward directed intelligence, what it's capable of. We said the head of a deer. Mriga also means to seek, search for, strive for, as well as to seek or investigate inwardly. The beginning of a search, either outwardly or within oneself, creative impulse, and manifestation. Mm. Mm. This is all very exciting. A search inward or outward, which the spirit penetrates the outer crust of materiality with a view to ultimately reveal its own reality and the illusory nature of matter. This idea of the chase, seeking, investigation. In the life of the individual, the impulse radiating from this asterism causes one to be surrounded by material affluence in order to realize ultimately the wider significance of life. One can obtain many good things of life under the influence of Mercury. Yeah, this could be a very abundant place. Yes, and very auspicious. Oh, the antelope is a special elusive animal, represented as the golden deer, symbolizing a mirage. It stands for illusion captivating human beings in different forms of worldliness. The antelope seen in the moon suggests the same idea, right? So our ancestors, the rabbit in the moon or the antelope in the moon, right? An appearance fabricated by imagination. Seeking comfort and pleasure in life is a sort of chase after the golden deer. Such an individual seeks something that is really not existent, which can only be held momentarily. A deer is an object of love and admiration. It has much attraction. Much attraction, yeah, arouses the desire for romance. Feeling these vibes of wintertime romance. Let's go. The idea. Uh-huh. hmm Yeah, and so this could be a very fertile place for producing things. Be aware. Sensitivity, grace, agility, and loveliness of appearance are some of the features of a deer, which one experiences under this asterism. But quick change, like the prancing of a deer. It is at this stage of cosmic evolution that subjectivity takes a sudden leap. I think that's maybe what I was getting at about like sometimes we go out in the collective end, and we're just like, I don't think I can like handle this, rationalize this, hold this, and even just bring it on back. And just cycle it on to the subjective. All right. And that's part of the game. So subjectivity looking outward. Oh, seeing yourself in others. Mm-hmm. So, ba ba ba. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Okay. And then there's always in this creativity, in this um proliferance, is that the word I want? The urge towards liberation. And so what is liberation? I'm just opening up the next 90 minutes. No. At this moon, at this juncture, at this moment of both individual and collective, liberation means healing. Liberation means being able to be here in your human form on earth, living your true and actual purpose, which is to discover the mysteries of life, to be in the artistry and design of things, to discover through limitations unlimited qualities, and to be in the paradise that is Earth. Now we done covered it with concrete and asphalt. We've, we have stewarded that abundance in a way that is not really was not a good idea, you know. And so we gotta learn some of those. Unfortunately, we are in the inheritance of that, you know, or we ourselves promote and propagate it. And in the spirit of decolonization, on some level, all of us are complacent and participating in the propagation of it. And that's a hard truth to entertain, but a beautiful one to bring into our rest, healing, and transformation at the juncture of this full moon. So every day is a great day for decolonization. And if we just make it the thing and the tools that we use be our tools of beauty and design and rest and healing, we will find our way. That is where the the effervescence of hope lives, like a gas from the earth, you know, fueling the blue flame. That's, so that's the full moon download, y'all. And apparently I have excellent memory recall today for dates. Which lets me know Mercury is alive today, even in retrograde form, because we're doing that mercurial thing, right? We're going back over. We're in review, right? So it's really just about harnessing and engaging malefics, benefics in what they have to offer us in that moment. So what is coming up for you all? What wisdom, what experience